D here with another amazing pre-Cal Jam podcast with a good friend of mine from down under, Simon Floreani. Say good morning, good afternoon to everybody.
Everybody, good afternoon. It's nice springtime here.
Yeah, we're going into our fall-winter season here, baby, and I'm feeling it at night. It's getting a little chilly. I'm going to have to come down to Australia. I don't know if they'll let me back in that country, though. It's getting a little tight down there with the whole vaccine, or excuse me, the V word thing going on down there in Australia.
You're a rogue. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's all right. You know, some people just can't handle the truth. I don't know what to say. So we got some stuff coming down. We got your health minister, Jill Hennessy, and my good friend, Horrible Hank. What's going on with Horrible Hank? Why is he got that bee up his ass is what I want to know. I mean, is it really that big a deal to him whether we vaccinate or don't vaccinate our kids, or we actually get people to understand the truth? And we're going to go down a deep road today, so just let's handle Hank first. Because he's been on my ass forever, and I love it when these guys are on my ass, because it only just, shit, talk about me all you want. I don't care if it's negative, positive. It's just spin it out there, folks. And I think they've started to realize it, because I don't get as many trolls on my page anymore.
Yeah, well, look, I'm really, I'm very disappointed in Hank. You know, he works for a charity organization, which is what protects them from all the slander that they offer to the entire community of healthcare providers. And that although that organization has some sort of immunity, its funding pool is traced back to the big pharma in the U.S.
You're kidding.
And so although they stay around the tiptoe around the laws of slander and hide behind a charity organization, many different people and organizations have started to hold them accountable. The anti-corruption complaint has been filed against him, and unfortunately our very sad situation with the Victorian Health Minister. The evidence is stacked up so high against them, and they're slamming people for not vaccinating their children and creating tweets about death threats and things that they're just totally unfounded. And there's some amazing legal representation that have started to take them on and demand that our government do an anti-corruption inquiry into these stakeholders who have what's called perverse incentives. They really have aimed to shift the influence of the community in a really non-evidence-based way, in just using media and slander and low evidence or no evidence. So I think it's good time for turns. Things are turning back on them because truth will win. Truth always wins.
I know, that's the whole thing. I've been saying it for years. It's like you can't. This lie cannot be suppressed forever. And you and I just know from not only a philosophical but also a scientific standpoint that vaccines are the biggest scam ever. And that's based on. I mean, I've been studying. It's not like I don't know what I'm talking about. I have a degree in chemistry, as I've said this so many times, with an emphasis in biochem and human physiology. And, we went to chiropractic school, whether people think that's a legit education or not. Just because we didn't learn about drugs and all the bullshit that's practiced in a kind of a medical paradigm, we understand the physiology and the harmonics that create health in a body. And then, I love to read, and I mean, I'm not bragging, but I go to seminars all the time. I'm continually, because I don't like to watch football. I like to learn about stuff, how to make this body work better. And if you want to come up to me with, your bullshit research or your evidence from, obviously we see where all the money's coming from. It's Big Pharma promotes this stuff through having bogus research, just like with the whole movie with Vax. Is Vax welcomed in Australia? I don't know. I heard something that was going to be outlawed too.
Actively blocked it every time there's tried to be screening. They lobby the cinemas. They stop the people coming. They create all sorts of high-level sabotage. It's extraordinary that they can try and silence it. It's extraordinary. People have to have secret screenings in their homes in order to have it shown to the community. It's a nanny state.
It's amazing, bro. But the thing is, it's still coming out, man. And I think the more that they suppress and they try to limit people's exposure to the film, it's just going to create more of a fervor for people to watch the movie, in my opinion. I don't know. It kind of worked that way here in the United States when they blocked it at the film festival. And, you know, I think they got amazing press out of that thing. So I think the more they try to bury their turd, which is, that's what they keep trying to, you know, this turd keeps trying to surface, but they keep trying to keep it so people can't see it. I mean, I like to use analogies people understand, you know. I never wanted to be PC, so sorry if I'm not being PC.
Yeah. Well, look, you know, the last 6 months with our Well-Adjusted Babies book, we've had to pull together research. We've been working with the regulator to try and show them the evidence. And my poor wife has been, you know, has just been snowed under. She put 18 reams of paper worth of evidence and research around every single question they asked. It was like I carried 18 reams, like a box of research to the lawyer and handed to them. And you give these people what they want when they want evidence. You know, we could not find one shred of evidence to show the efficacy of childhood vaccination. And, you know, we had a QC representing us.
But shouldn't a more important question be the safety too? I mean, to me,
there's none.
I know. I mean, the long-term side effects of giving kids 70-plus vaccines by whatever age, to me, that seems like you'd want to know the long-term side. The long-term side effects studies they do are usually 3 or 4 or 5 days. That's their long-term side effect studies.
I think it's in the U.S. that the whistleblowers have come out. I mean, if this happened, that there was whistleblowers talking about the lack of efficacy and the perverse incentive and the cover-ups in any other industry, any single industry.
No kidding, bro.
Or chemicals, there would be a major government inquiry. There would be press front page. There would be, and so, you know, I'm under my regulation and registration requirements not allowed to talk about vaccination, but under the laws of this country, I have to do what's right. And our QC said to us, "You people have agreed. You've made an agreement with the regulator to not talk about something." But you do not have a choice when it comes to being a citizen. You have to tell the truth. As a health practitioner, you have to tell the truth to your clients. And so, although I may be stepping over the line of what I've agreed to do with my regulator, I have to tell people the truth. As a health practitioner, as a leader, as a father, as a community member,
as a concerned human friggin' being, man, that's what it comes down to. You know in your heart. The thing is, you can't keep that information away from people when you know it's maiming and killing children. That's the real issue.
And your listeners have to do the same too. We don't have a choice. You know, we've tried to be really nice and compliant, but even when you give evidence, it doesn't get traction. Even when because
they don't want evidence, dude. They just want to keep just trying to get you to spin your wheels so they can just keep spinning their lies. That's the whole thing. Like people ask me, "Where's your evidence for that?" It's like I'll give you the evidence, but then you're saying that evidence doesn't hold up anyway. So
yeah, and the beauty is it's the parents that sit there and can see that it's wrong, can feel that it's wrong in their gut, you know. And as a parent, you have to trust your gut because you don't get a handbook with your kids. You know, you don't get a clear road of understanding. You have to trust your gut on the highway of life, and that's the thing that's making the change. Is that parents are trusting their gut and saying, "I don't want to do this. I can't inject this poison in my baby's body," and be okay with that, regardless of whatever some authority says or whatever anyone else says. It just feels wrong, and that's the interesting thing, that regardless of all the propaganda in the media and all those things, that people will follow what feels right to them. And we need to encourage that innate intelligence in our clients and in our community so that people make the right choices rather than, you know, my grandmother took thalidomide, and she had 11 children, none of which had seal limbs or limb deformities. But in the next generation, which is my generation, every single one of those children has at least one child. I have a brother with one kidney, a sister with an eye missing. I have cousins with ears missing, fingers missing, testicles missing, hands missing. You know, this stuff goes generations, and we have to say no. And we have to say that it's going to affect not just us today, but you cannot put the chemistry into the body and not expect there to be some epigenetic shifts.
Right.
It's a big problem, and I'm a true example of exactly that. That what appeared in one generation to be not have no effect has been a great sample set of 11 children, and they've all had at least one or two or at least 2 or 3 children each, and in every single family there is a significant peripheral limb or organ deformity. It's
Amazing.
extraordinary.
I don't know where I heard this. Thalidomide on its way back somewhere. Did you hear that too?
I'll be jumping from the rooftops on that one.
I can't remember what it was in. I read so much stuff all the time. So can I ask you a question so I have a better understanding and so that our listeners have a better understanding? Because I know that you guys are really restricted in in Australia from speaking about the V word, vaccination. I was also up visiting Dr. Chestnut up in Canada. They have the same type of regulations there. And he had done a really interesting podcast about the significance of taking vitamin D and how it's a way more effective over the flu shot. He actually had to pull that off the internet. I just don't know how far reaching these restrictions can go. I mean, I can see that you're in your little country, but like we're doing this thing, it's a global thing. I mean, we could talk about it here in California. I don't know how that works. But I just find it interesting that chiropractors would even allow themselves to be regulated on such a concept that when even our early founders discussed things like vaccines. And obviously in school we learned about toxicology. Why don't you elaborate on how this ever happened and who was responsible for it and why it ever did? Because I think it's coming here in California. I want to get ready for what we're going to need to do here because I know obviously they got the vaccine thing rolling here in California first. They got it going in Australia as well.
Well, I think you've got to understand politics a little bit. In Australia, we're a registered profession under the government, whereas I think in many of the states in the US, you are self-regulated by your own boards, which are chiropractic boards.
Okay, good.
You have the boards writing your agreements for how you will practice in each individual state, whereas we have one single department in the government. Chiropractic is the second most utilized profession after the MD in Australia, and we've worked hard to be at the forefront of healthcare. But with that, we sort of sold into being regulated by a government body, so they govern you. And these laws have come in to govern all health practitioners. Although
is it the same way in Canada then too, or do you know?
I would think so because it's got that sort of Queen ruling thing over the top. But
under the thumb, baby, of the Queen, huh? You guys are still can't get away from that English influence, huh?
Yeah, like that. But I think it's also that Canada, that every country borrows regulation from each other. They see how it works in one country, then they go, okay, we're going to adopt that. So it makes it much safer for the decision makers to go, we just copied what they did in Australia, so it's not like I'm coming up with something new that could be a big problem. And so I think Canada's either borrowed it from Australia. They have these summits where they share information and say this is what's working in our country, and so many countries tend to do that in politics. But what we've done is we've got a chiropractic regulation board that is a department employed by the government. Now, in saying that too, I'm employed by our government as in a policing role to be on the peer review committee of anyone that commits fraud with or bad things with the government. And I've been on that board for 4 years, and I've not even been called up once. And there's about when I got trained by the government department, there was 13 GPs there because they have so much of that. I wouldn't call it fraud, but it's issues in the GP fraternity that there's a need for them to be highly active. The chiropractic representative for the Australian government has had nothing, not even called up once, not even an email saying, hey, could you review this? We work outside that government sphere. However, I read some statistics the other day that there's been a 50% drop in the last 15 years in parents taking their kids to the GP.
Wow.
In this country. And 50% of pregnant women no longer visit the GP. They don't want drugs. They don't want that style of healthcare delivery, especially for their kids and especially for their unborn children. And so therein lies the issue with people like us who teach and talk all about family care, is that we're taking the turf. And it's a modified compliment to have them chase after you and ask you for your evidence and to push your buttons. But the practitioners, the health practitioners out there need to realize that when you make a difference, you're taking someone else's turf.
Right.
And so that's another reason why there's this antagonism against the chiropractors, because we represent a real threat.
Right. That's why you see these, media blitzes about somebody having a stroke or something. It's the same thing it's like people like, don't you get freaked out about it? No, I'm conditioned to it, man. Like one death supposedly when they commit. How many people does a medical profession kill every year, which is documented in their own friggin' research?
There's the same week that the evidence came out that the third leading cause of death in the world is the physician.
Right.
The GP. They did the massive cover-up story with the baby getting its spine adjusted, and went on every news and media. This poor guy in Australia who's never harmed anyone. The parents are totally happy. They took this small little snippet of him adjusting a baby and made it look like he was snapping the child's spine. And ironically, the same week that should have been headlining saying "Run like hell" from the doctor. Third leading cause of death, worse than bad car accidents and drugs. It's atrocious.
Right.
Huh?
And you know what I say? I think it's the number one leading cause of preventable death, because what the problem is, when people become sick, they go to the doctor. They don't do anything to change what caused them to be sick, i.e. lifestyle. And then they take a drug which gives them this falsified belief that they're doing something positive for their health. And then they die from a heart attack, or they get cancer because they never changed what caused the problem, which was their lifestyle issues. So, again, it gives people a false sense of security when in reality they don't do anything and just continue to go down that spiral down towards their ultimate demise. So I think it's number one, baby, but that's just my opinion based on my many years of research. And, they admit they're number three. It doesn't take much to figure out that a lot of the cancer and heart disease is due to lifestyle that is perpetuated by a medical lifestyle. It's coming out everywhere, man. That's why I say there's so many holes in that dike, especially the vaccine dike. They're not going to be able to hold that back too much longer, in my opinion, because the evidence is there.
And I think the politicians will lose their position over that, because it's a thin line to tread and a very shaky precipice to stand on when you start screaming from the media outlets that there is safety there, and it's just not. And Billy, I'm talking to you as a concerned citizen who's regulated by my law. I'm not talking to these people as a health practitioner. I'm talking as someone who's just observing the evidence. And, they really, the evidence is not there to suggest that people are safe. And our kids are safe. And it's a really, my wife, God bless her, has worked tirelessly to bring the evidence together. And her next book will be, we've got this multimedia platform where we can share the research as it comes available in layman's terms to help people actually hear the truth, not through the media, but through multimedia platforms. Now we can share around the world exactly what the truth is, exactly what the research says, and let people make informed decisions, not poorly informed and media savvy, media shake, rattle, and roll. It's not okay.
Right.
So,
and that's where I think we're winning the game now. I have to say that we are winning. And it's not whether we're winning, it's just the truth's coming out, is that, for so many years, the media has really corrupted what people believe. And now with the internet, it's just impossible to hold back the information. Even this podcast is going to get more and more information out to more and more people. And again, it comes down to what feels right in your gut. You might want to believe in all this bullshit science that they throw at you, but sticking a needle in a baby? Come on, man. What gets to be more like, to me, it's almost a demonic, satanic act, in my opinion, and injecting in the filth that's made in a friggin' pharmaceutical lab, which a lot of it's done in places like China, where there's no quality assurance. You don't know what you're getting at the end of that needle. And to me, I'm just gonna play it. I'm gonna play it on the safe side. I'm gonna work with what God gave me and what Mother Nature intended for me, and live congruent to what I'm supposed to have for my maximum gene expression. And it's not these chemicals. It's living a lifestyle congruent exactly to universal order, and that doesn't include vaccines, in my humble opinion. So that's just my whole thing. I mean, I'm just a common sense guy, dude.
We've hired the town hall. We have this solicitor has put together a summit against corruption, and it's being held on the 11th of the 11th, which is our Remembrance Day over here. And it's starting at 9:11 in the morning, and it's going all day. And there'll be the viewing of Vaxxed in the centre of Melbourne City. At the end of that night, we're going to walk down to a big Federation Square, and there's a cinema complex there that's going to house it. We have not been able to advertise it. It's only in 9 days' time. We've got Brandy Vaughan coming out from the US. We've got a certain number of speakers there. So I'd implore any of you that are in Victoria, in Melbourne, that want to come along. It'll be an extraordinary day exposing corruption in the areas of how they've treated the Australian Aborigines, right through to especially vaccines in families and kids. So we've had to keep it on the underground. But
of course.
Enough time left, and the right people listening to and subscribing to this type of podcast to spread the word in the right ways to the right people, so that we can actually inform you, get you the real messages, and that's what Jen and I are all about. Everything to do with keeping the kids safe. Hey,
that's what we're all about, man. I mean, here I have a big soft spot in my heart for kids too. Actually, half my practice is kids, and when you see these kids that have come in that have been maimed by vaccines, and you see how it's literally destroyed their lives and the families' lives that they live with, it's appalling to me that this continues to go on and on without people starting to hear the other side of the story.
No, it's so sad.
All right, I got to wrap this up because I got the beautiful, not that you're not beautiful. In fact, you are a pretty good-looking guy. But I got the beautiful Kathy Wendland Colby coming on next at 11 o'clock. I'm so glad we got to touch base. Let's do another one of these, and I got to get you guys maybe scheduled for CalJam. What is it going to be? CalJam 11 coming up next year. I would love to have everybody every year, but I got to kind of, you understand. Yeah, you get it.
Yeah, you got it. You get it. I get it.
Yeah. All right. I'm
going
to say that.
You 100.
All right,
Love
brother.
you too.
And
Thanks,
hope we'll see you down the chiropractic road soon.
Yeah, absolutely. You bet. Love you both.
I love you too, man. Rock and roll.
$7 can get you a romance novel, a #1 combo at In-N-Out Burger, a 12-pack of granola bars, a cup of green juice, or 1 month of access to the CalJam network. At CalJam, we take pride in the array of topics our speakers have covered over the past 8 years. With the CalJam network membership, most of our speakers' talks can be accessed. In our network, you can also find numerous seminars from the Dead Chiropractic Society's monthly meeting with over 100 chiropractors and some of the best speakers in the profession. The CalJam network is your all-access pass to CalJam and DCS workshops, videos, and chiropractic content. From past CalJam speakers to recent DCS seminars, the network is a great resource for anybody passionate about chiropractic health or global sustainability. So don't miss out! We upload new and exciting content monthly, which can stream on any device, even your smartphone. Join the CalJam network today for only $7 a month at caljam.org/network.
say rock and roll?
Rock and roll!